Somewhere right now, a dog is sitting by a door, just sitting there. It got up this morning, drank some water, ate a little, then walked back to the door and sat down again. It has been doing this for 6 days straight. The owner died 6 days ago, and no one has been able to explain that to the dog. For a long time, science had a clean answer for this. Animals don't grieve. They notice an absence. They get confused for a while, then they move on. Neat, simple, and completely wrong. Because what researchers have found in the last 2 decades doesn't just change how we think about animals, it changes what we think grief actually is. For most of the last century, the rule was simple. Grief requires understanding death. And death, real death, the permanence of it, the forever of it, was considered too complex for an animal mind. To grieve, you have to know that someone is gone, not just absent, not just late, gone, forever, never coming back. Scientists assumed animals couldn't hold that idea. So when a dog refused to leave its owner's grave, they called it confusion. When a cat stopped eating after its owner died, they called it stress. When an elephant stood over a dead body for 3 days, they called it instinct. They had a word for everything except the obvious one. Then in 2011, the Journal of Veterinary Behavior published something that was hard to dismiss. Researchers surveyed hundreds of pet owners who had lost one animal in a multi-pet household. They wanted to know one thing: how did the surviving animals behave? 66% showed significant changes. They ate less, slept more, stopped playing. Some became vocal in ways their owners had never heard before, crying, whimpering, calling out into empty rooms. Others started following their owners everywhere, room to room, step to step, like they were terrified of losing someone else. The researchers called it grief-like behavior. But here's the thing: if it eats like grief, sounds like grief, destroys your appetite like grief, at what point do we stop adding the word like? Grief isn't just an emotion, it's something your brain does. When you spend years with someone, your brain builds a model of them, a pattern, where they'll be, when they'll come home, what they'll do next. Your brain runs that pattern constantly, quietly in the background. And then one day, that person is gone. But the pattern isn't. Your brain keeps sending signals out. Nothing comes back. That mismatch between what your brain expects and what reality delivers, that's what grief feels like from the inside. Now here's where it gets hard to ignore. Every mammal shares this same brain architecture. Dogs, cats, elephants, dolphins. They all build internal models of the individuals they live with. They all generate expectations, predictions, patterns. And when that individual disappears, the same misfiring happens. The signals go out. Nothing comes back. A 2016 study in learning and behavior measured dogs' cortisol levels after losing their primary human. Not any human, not a stranger, their person. Cortisol spiked, sleep broke down, appetite collapsed. The dog sitting by the front door isn't waiting because it doesn't understand. It's waiting because its brain built itself around someone. And the brain doesn't just delete that overnight. But here's what no one expected. It's not just pets, and it's not just animals that lived with the person. Some animals grieve owners they never even met. In 1925, a man named Ueno died suddenly on his way to work. His dog, Hachiko, had walked him to the train station every single morning for 2 years. Every afternoon, Hachiko was there when the train came in. The day Ueno died, Hachiko waited until midnight. He came back the next day, and the day after that. For 9 years, 1 month, and 15 days, Hachiko returned to that same station, same spot, same time, every single day, until his own death. Scientists don't use Hachiko as a sentimental story. They use it as behavioral data. Because what Hachiko was doing required something specific: memory, expectation, a pattern held precisely for nearly a decade. That's not confusion. And it's not just dogs. Elephants return to the bones of dead herd members, sometimes years later. They touch the remains with their trunks. They go still. They stand there in a kind of focused silence, that researchers have no clean word for. They don't do this with the bones of other species, only their own, only individuals they knew. In 2018, a killer whale named Tahlequah gave birth. The calf died hours later. For 17 days, across more than 1,000 miles of open ocean, she carried the body at the surface, refusing to let it sink. Scientists called it a tour of grief. Some argued it was instinct, but instinct doesn't last 17 days. Back to the animals closest to us, because this is where it gets personal. A dog doesn't just remember what you look like. Its nose is, by some estimates, 10,000 times more sensitive than yours. It has built a complete chemical portrait of you. What you smell like in the morning, after you eat, when you're stressed, when you're calm. It knows your scent the way you know a face. When you die, that portrait doesn't disappear. It stays. Researchers at the University of Milan tracked dogs after the death of their primary owner. The changes weren't just behavioral, they were physical. Disrupted sleep, weakened immune response, appetite gone for weeks. Some dogs showed every symptom of clinical depression. Cats show it differently. A 1996 ASPCA study found that 65% of cats ate less after losing a companion. 70% became more vocal. Most began moving through the house, room to room, sniffing places their owner used to sit. Searching, not confused, searching. There's a question underneath all of this. Do animals know their owner is dead, or do they just know they're gone? Honestly, we don't fully know. We can measure cortisol, we can track behavior, we can watch a dog sit by a door for 6 days straight, but what it actually feels like inside that animal, whether there is something it is like to be that dog, waiting, feeling something, that sits just beyond what we can measure. What we do know is this: when an animal bonds with a human, it builds something real. Inside its nervous system, inside its brain, a pattern, a presence, a set of expectations that become part of how it moves through the world. And when that presence disappears, the brain doesn't update and move on. It keeps looking. It keeps sending signals into silence. We always thought grief was the price of being human, the burden that comes with knowing what forever means. But maybe grief is older than that. Maybe it's just what happens when a brain builds itself around someone, and then has to keep going without them. The dog by the door isn't broken. It isn't confused. It's doing the only thing it knows how to do, waiting for someone its whole world was built around. And somewhere inside that small, quiet animal, something is missing, and it knows.